everyone, welcome back to the Novel Event and welcome to day 18 of Vlogmas. Today's puzzle is Bookmas Tree. This one right here, very adorable and cute. I don't particularly enjoy doing Bookmas trees because I have to get all my lovely books out from the shelves. I mean, I have enough piles of books so I could probably make a tree, but I decided not to actually do a Bookmas tree. I thought of other topics. Initially, I was thinking maybe I could talk about travel books or things that I bought on travel, because I'm not sure if you've seen that in St. Pancras Station in London, the Christmas tree this year is actually from Hatchards, and it's made to look like this giant Bookmas tree, like all these shelves of books that light up. And also there are different like nooks at the base of the tree that you can sit down and listen to sections of stories. It looks utterly magical and it fits so well into the theme of Christmas. But I decided I would go something completely left field. It's getting towards the end of the year and I wanted to go through my favorite books of 2023. Now I kind of went through a bit of a wrap up last time of where I was at with reading. I kind of gave you a very like broad sweeping idea of a 2023 in review, so all the things that I have read, and that was a lot, but I have sat down and thought of all the books that I read this year and the ones that have really stuck with me, the ones that have affected me in some way and really changed my reading perspective. Now, this list is probably not final because I have a lot of books that I read this year. I think I'm nearly up to 125. But I picked these 4 books for 2023. First off, you probably saw me wax poetic about this, but it deserved more and more praise the more I think about it. And that is The Jaguar by Sarah Holland-Batt. This is a poetry collection, basically recounting Sarah's father died from Parkinson's disease. And the poetry in this is absolutely stunning. Not only is it using this kind of animalistic view of the human, of the person, as they're losing their ability to focus, their mental aptitude, different things like that we mark ourselves as human, and turning back into this animal state where you're just existing, you're eating food, different things like that. So this one was absolutely beautiful. One of my favorite poems in this one it's called My Father as a Giant Koi. And so you have this imagery that she invokes of this koi pond, this really murky, almost murky subterranean pond, that this koi fish is so slowly circling up, and you can see the fish because it has that beautiful mottled colouring and the white or the luminescent orange and red scales. And as it surfaces, it has this kind of moment where it just like slowly surfaces from the pond to eat, and then it comes back down again and is lost into the pond itself. So that opening of that poem just resonated so much with me, and it just was such a brilliant depiction of mental illness, of people who are going through this really intense like Parkinson's disease. He was, his mental faculties were so depleted as such, but he would resurface at a food, a taste, a memory, a sound. She would see her father again, and it was just so beautiful to see these moments of connection, or these moments where she had to break free from that situation that was really holding her back, or that situation that she was just in a holding pattern, and she knew that she was gonna, just be really hard for her to get out of it once her father had passed away. So it was a truly beautiful poetry collection, and it's really succinct, going through those like the early days when he first got his diagnosis and all the erratic behavior that occurs during that time, to when he's really ill and he can hardly feed himself and things like that, to afterwards, after he had died. So it's just a stunning portrayal of grief, of connection, of human existence in this animal world. It's stunning, and I really hope you can find a copy wherever you are, because it's absolutely worth it. So please, 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 if you love poetry and you love really human, intense poetry, pick this one up. Next, I wanted to pick a book that kind of made me obsessed with it, and it really changed my perspective. And this is going to have to go to Annihilation by Vandermeer. This was such an amazing read. Like this, it was so good. Like I just didn't know what was going on at any point in time. Well, I mean, slowly I clued in, but then at the same time, was that right? And it was such a great mystery layered on with sci-fi, layered on with science, layered on with nature and climate catastrophe, layered on with aliens. Are they aliens? We don't know. Potentially, probably are. And I read the entire trilogy. Like, I mean, I do tend to do that with fantasy and sci-fi sometimes. If the trilogy is out, I will just blitz through it. But this one just stuck with me. It's such a small book, and it is so fascinating. And it's like that kind of, it's really great because it really makes you question many mental potential issues within society that aren't addressed, societal structures within this kind of, I'm trying not to give too much away because it is very abstract, but it just made me think so much, and it just, it's just so good. So yes, this one was such a stellar read. I just went straight on to book 2 and 3, which is bigger. This is quite a slim book, but it's such an amazing read. And I know it's not for everyone. I know not everyone likes like a weird abstract sci-fi where things just go wrong or it's like crazy or things like that. This is just so good. So good. I loved every moment of this book. So yeah, I thoroughly recommend if you want a weird sci-fi that makes you question everything, even your reading of it. Even if you think, am I reading this right? Or does it have a different meaning? Does it have to have a meaning? Is it meant to be universal? So many questions, and that's what I think I loved about it. It kind of got me out of this really intense holding pattern of my reading cycle, and it just threw this in left field and I ran with it. It was so much fun. So yeah, I definitely recommend Annihilation by Vandermeer. Going from the weird to the wonderful and sweet and heartwarming and charming classic of my choice of the year. And I do love reading classics and modern classics, and this one just took my heart. It's such a beautiful read, and that is Persephone's Miss Buncle's book, done by Persephone Press, and it's by D.E. Stevenson. This book was so beautiful. I just loved it. It's like such a quirky community, and Miss Buncle wrote a book, and she, because you know her allowance is running out, she's, you know, times are tough in the 1920s and 30s. Inflation is quite crazy. I think we can all feel that right now as well. And she just writes this book about her neighbours, but changes everyone's name. And she's the quiet mouse of the village that no one really thought anything of. But she's been observing everyone, and her observations are not only spot on, but they're also hilarious at the same time. And it becomes an instant bestseller. And of course, someone in the village finds out that this book is actually about their village, and some of the people that are very well-to-do and think wonderful of themselves are actually called out for some of their behavior in this book. So it's incredibly funny, and I just had such fun reading this. I was chuckling throughout most of this book. I just had too much fun. So I highly recommend you pick up a copy or even find out your local library. It's such a wonderful read. I think it'd be like one of those perfect Christmas reads as well. I've already got too many nostalgic Christmas reads at the moment, and I only read this one recently, but I really hope you get to find it somewhere because it's so good. Next is one book that I started quite early on in the year, and I don't think I mentioned it last time actually, but I wanted to pick a short story collection because I've read a few of them this year, and this one really stood out to me this year. There's only a few stories that didn't kind of gel with me, but most of these are really fantastic and really made me think. So it's called Furies. This is a Virago Press, Stories of the Wild, Wicked and Untamed. And it's amazing because each story has titled like some type of female demon or creature or things like that. So you have a siren, a virago, a churail, a termagant, a wench, a hussy, a vipertorator, a Harrigan, a warrior, a she-devil, a muckraker, a spitfire, a fury, tigress, and a dragon. And so they had like such a great range of authors. Like, I mean, some of these are just like fantastic. We've got Margaret Atwood, Camilla Shamsi, Emma Donoghue, Christy Logan, Carolyn O'Donoghue, Helen Oyemi, Linda Grant, Ali Smith, and they're just really good. And some of them are really funny, some of them are really heartfelt, some are LGBTQ plus, and it's just so good. The range of stories in here, but they all feel along this same path. They all feel like they're really trying to grasp this concept of this female power that has been like, you know, turned against women. And it's just really interesting. So yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed my time reading this book. It's such a good read. And I read it at the start of the year because it came out quite early and I was so excited to get it, and it was so worth it. It was honestly such a great read. And I usually read short story collections from the same author, and which I think is great because authors usually, when they write short story collections, they write it with a holistic view, like a whole view in mind, I should say, when they go to write about a certain topics, ideas, stories based in a certain place, things like that. Where this was such an interesting, I think it was led with a certain concept in mind, but then they contacted all these different writers, and so the tone for each story is very different. The writing style is different, you know, the humor level, things like that, they're all different, but then they all have that kernel of similarity that just draws it all together, which is so well done. So yeah, this one is definitely one of my favorites of 2023, just because I got to sample so many amazing works, and it was just such a brilliant read from so many different perspectives that I loved it. It was so good. Well, I've said so many times in this because I've been expressing how wonderful these books are, but to wrap it up, these are my favorite books of 2023. I do have others that I think about a lot, but I didn't feel like they changed me radically when I read them, and they didn't feel like, skin, muscle, bone deep kind of thing. They definitely made me think, and they made me view perspectives on the world differently. But these four really bone deep. They settled in bone deep, and I just had a wonderful time when I was reading them. But I'd love to know what your favorite reads are of 2023, or anything made you really like change your perspective, or the reading experience was just like phenomenal. It just like blew you away. So yeah, definitely tell me what your favorites of 2023 are, or tell me if you'd like to make a bookmas tree, and I would love to see your pictures or like hear your concept of making a bookmas tree, because it's not something I would typically do for myself. But until next time, enjoy the puzzle and happy reading. Bye.